Welcome to the Halawa Fantasy Football League Week 1 recap. I actually have like introduction music. Okay, enough of that. I have like a little soundboard thing. Anyway, it was an exciting first day. I actually ended up watching football almost the whole day. We actually had our meeting. Of course we don't watch football during the meeting, but it is kind of tempting, isn't it? You know, you have your Zoom here on the side, and then you have like the game on the other side. No, I didn't do that. Anyways, let's see some notable games of interest that I thought were interesting. I was interested in the Lions San Francisco game, mostly because being a Lions fan, and I know Brad is a San Francisco fan. Really curious to see how the Lions would do because it was their opening, brand new coach. Dan Campbell. Bite off your kneecaps, Dan Campbell. I knew he would be a better coach. I didn't, and then it started to look bad because they were getting stomped on by Brad's team. But what you didn't know was they almost mounted an insurmountable comeback. Like they were down like big, and then they got like an onside after scoring a touchdown, onside kick. Scored a touchdown, recovered a fumble, and then they came within like 8 points of pulling a comeback. It's pretty crazy. Also interested in the Rams-Bears game just because that was the Sunday night football game. Interested in it because, like, fan of Stafford. Again, Lions fan. But I always knew that if he would be in the spotlight, that people would appreciate him more. And I'm kind of glad to see him getting his shine now. And then lastly is the Sunday night football game, which was kind of a mess. If you actually watched the game, it was not pretty football. Really notable team to Mike bidding, just because he has all Ravens players, and if they had scored big, there was a chance that he could be able to come back, but it didn't work out. But yeah, exciting football games. Let's see. Let's go into our overview of. Let me pull it up. Our fantasy football league, just to recap the scores. The first one up is me versus James. I just so happen to have the highest score, 188.6. My biggest score was Pat Mahomes, and just across the board, just really, really excellent scores. And then for James, Tom Brady was his best score, but unfortunately for him, two of them that he was kind of counting on to be good, like Ezekiel Elliott, he's a first round pick, and this is not the only one. There's other players that are kind of like that too. Only gave him 6 points, and then Tanyan was just a result of a larger problem. Then the other game, Brownsville Jets versus ADA Moon Club, Mike B versus Darren. This was the one that you weren't sure what the final score was until the end of Monday Night Football. Lamar Jackson kind of underperformed. Andrews really, really underperformed. But surprisingly, Tyson Williams was a nice surprise. And then we'll look at a little bit more about the Baltimore running backs later, but he can look to him going forward. For Darren, same thing, another pattern. Aaron Rodgers scoring only 4.82 points. And then, like, really hurting is, like, some of the high round picks, like Julio Jones not scoring so high. And if you look at the bench, Mike left some points on the bench. It was a pretty strong bench. The next up, Blitzritz. It kind of looked like he was going to be the high scorer for the week, and I'm a super big fan of Richie's team. But yeah, they scored big too. 172.58 is the second highest score of the week. Gary's was his was one that had to wait till Monday Night Football too, because he kind of relied on Waller, who came up big for him, but it just wasn't enough to catch Richie. Richie was just too far ahead. So that was another interesting game, the Sunday Night Football, because both of those games of interest, brand new stadiums. SoFi Stadium for LA, and then for Vegas, they had a brand new stadium too. Next matchup, Morgan versus Brad. Morgan actually had a really, really good game. It's just unfortunately for him, Brad's was just better. So just across the board, you can see like how well they did. Morgan just put up solid numbers, no real weak spot. And then, but Brad's has like really strong showing from Jalen Hurts, and that defense and San Francisco. That's could be kind of a hint. Detroit is good as an opponent. If you have any players that are matched up against Detroit, good idea to play them. Deebo Samuel had 28.4. The San Francisco defense had 30. The kicker had 15.2. So it was good enough to beat Morgan's excellent score. Next up was the closest game. Prince Llama versus his mediocre minions. Jeremy finished early, so he had all his points already. Dak Prescott performed really well. He looks like he's going to be an MVP candidate. And he just put solid numbers, and the matchup was close. It's just that Eric happened to beat him on Sunday Night Football with a touchdown by Montgomery. And Montgomery looks like he's going to be a feature back for the Bears. Too bad for Ronald Jones. He got a really sad 0.8 points. But at the same time, he had Kyler Murray, who is the top player for the week with 37.16. He had 4 passing touchdowns, 289 pass yards, 1 rushing touchdown. So Kyler Murray is the high scorer for the week. Another one, Jones, running back. You expect him to score big, but he only had 3.7. And then the last one was Aaron versus Mike, Big Mike LaRue. This was another kind of close game. Mike put up the points first, and then Aaron kind of had to rely on the Baltimore defense and Justin Tucker, which are both very strong ancillary positions. But it just wasn't enough to catch Mike. It was actually kind of a long shot, but it was enough to give a chance. He definitely had a chance. And then here's another one, Saquon Barkley, another first rounder who's just completely underperformed. And it hurts too. A guy like Mike Evans, who had high rumors of. I mean, he was touted as being the best receiver for Tampa Bay, but he was actually behind others like Antonio Brown and Godwin. Yeah, I mean, but all in all, it's the first week. It's really tough to judge. Don't overreact. That's going to be one of the topics we're going to see. There's going to be some early overreactions. Try to figure out if, like for example, we're talking about those guys like Saquon Barkley, Ezekiel Elliott, Adam Jones, Devontae Adams. These guys are they're all quality players. It's just an anomaly. So, I mean, but who knows? Who knows? All right, next up. Who left with the most bench points? That was Mike B. So if you look at him, I was kind of concerned about his team just because he kept getting injuries, but he's actually set pretty good because Antonio Brown, this probably would have given him a lot of help in possibly beating Darren if he played him right, but he also has other receivers and running backs who do fairly well. Let's just talk about the Baltimore running back since we're on Mike's thing. Mike drafted J.K. Dobbins. He was going to be the feature back for Baltimore, and unfortunately ACL torn the following day. Well, it happened. The injury happened. The diagnosis happened the following day after our draft. Somebody drafted Gus Edwards, who was next in line. I can't remember who. Maybe it was Gary. Gary Melcher drafted Gus Edwards, and then he was next in line probably. And then whoever running back you have for Baltimore is gonna do well, but he got hurt too. And it just so happened that Mike was fortunate enough to pick up Tyson Williams, who was the third back. And after watching it tonight, well, before we get into that, they signed a whole bunch of other guys, Latavius Murray, Le'Veon Bell, there's another guy too. And then some of you guys actually picked them up, knowing that the running game for Baltimore is strong. But it looks like Tyson Williams is going to be the guy. It's his job to lose, and so I think Mike is fortunate that he ended up with him. So going forward, and then the other thing that I want to talk about was just how bad Green Bay was, and mostly because of Aaron Rodgers. So I don't know if you guys have a Green Bay player. I don't know. It seems like it all depends on Aaron Rodgers. Like, how much does he want to play? I don't know. You're really, really reliant on him in that regard. So that might be something to keep an eye on going forward. All right. Okay. Here's another section that I was thinking of like doing. I don't know if you guys want me to do it or not, because maybe you have like secret moves that you don't want known. But I was thinking of just doing like a waiver thing, like a waiver review, like what's available on the waiver wire. If you guys don't like it, then we can stop, but we'll just try it this first time. So if you are in need of a quarterback, let's look at this. We filter it here and we go by fan points. Jared Goff is available. But speaking of overreaction, I don't know if you would trust that. Jameis Winston actually looks like the real deal. He did what Aaron Rodgers should have been doing. Derek Carr looked actually pretty good. Matthew Stafford looks like a solid pickup too. There's a lot of other big scores, so there is a chance for you to upgrade your quarterback position. Next up, wide receivers. This one, looks like there's a ton available. This is probably the deepest. Christian Kirk was the highest point scorer. You had a guy like Sterling Shepard. I think Galladay is still out, so right now Shepard is the number one. Zach Pascal is doing well. Mike Williams, Marvin Jones, Nelson Aguilar, Juwan Johnson, Van Jefferson. They're all guys that are 15-point plus scorers in the first week, and it's a lot deeper too. And then this is just week 1. There's gonna be like week 2, week 3, week 4 breakouts too. So just trying to figure out who's going to be consistently good. The running backs, it was really tough to find a running back, but it turns out there are a few available. Jamal Williams looks like a 1A, 1B running back to DeAndre Swift. They scored just about the same points. He actually started the game, so he's looking good. Eli Mitchell is one you probably want to jump on right away just because, what's his name, Mostert? I think he got hurt, and he took most of the snaps in that game. You take it with a grain of salt, because again, he did it against Detroit. But as far as the number of carries, he had most of them, so that's big. Mark Ingram is also another good pickup too. And then after that, it gets really, really rough. The rookie for Philly did pretty good, but after that, it's rough. It's still kind of, you want to jump on these quick if you need a running back. Tight end. Juwan Johnson was the best, and this is kind of like, this is one of the reasons I didn't really want to talk about it, but if you looking for him, this is a good idea because he's also a wide receiver, so you can flex him if you really wanted to. And Higbee and Njoku are other good options just because the Rams looks like they're going to have a good offense, and the Browns look like they have a good offense. Everett too, I guess. So there is rooms for you to upgrade. I know some of you were hurting with tight ends this week. For the kicker, this is all over the map. As you can see, actually, let's show all players, not just who's available. As you can see, they're the number 2, number 3. They're all over the map. Some of you are way down the line. It's really tough to guess. In fact, yeah, James, you happen to have like the lowest at the bottom of the page. So you can fix your kicker there, but I don't know. This is another one that's really tough to figure out. And then lastly, we'll look at the defense, and oh boy, you just see how like the amount of points that you could have had. It's really the top. It's you're gonna get a lot of points from defense from somewhere. So just in looking at it now, I may need to dial this back next year definitely not going to change the stats now. We don't change the rules in the middle of the season as much as we can help it. But this seems like kind of crazy high. This is quarterback level. All right. Yeah, so if you're interested in trying to upgrade your team, I don't know if this is the updated. Here's the league overview. This was the waiver standings. I don't know if it's going to change after today. I think it'll change after today. Oh, maybe not. I don't know. Can't really tell. The other reason why is because if you look at the league pick'em, the scores aren't in yet. So I may need to change to doing this to Tuesdays so that I can make sure all of this stuff is done before I do this recap. Yeah. And then the last thing I wanted to kind of like talk about is the IR, how to use the IR. I can't make any changes now, but what you can do is when you add a player, not add a player. If you have a player who is physically unable to perform, is on the actual IR or is on COVID, you can shift them. Actually, let's look at somebody else's. Who has somebody on IR? I think Jeremy does. Yeah, you can put them on the IR. The important thing is they have to already be on your roster. You can't just pick up a guy who's physically unable to perform or in COVID and automatically put them onto IR. They have to be on your roster already. So if you're interested in trying to grab someone who's on the IR off the waiver wire or free agency, you're going to need to clear a roster spot for them before you put them on IR. Yeah. Anyways, that's your first week. I don't know how the waiver is going to play out because the way I set it to hopefully work the way it did when we were on ESPN. If I need to change that, I might have to tweak it, but hopefully everyone has a chance to fix your teams. It seems like there's a lot of parity this year, so I'm kind of happy to see that. So everyone will have a chance to compete for a championship. All right, that's all we got. So see you later.